Hello and welcome to another episode of Game Theory, the #1 DraftKings prep show in all of the land. I am your host, Monk, aka the Monkmatician, and in this very episode, we're going to be breaking down all 11 fights coming up at UFC Vegas 54, headlined by Blachowicz and Aleksandar Rakic from a DraftKings perspective, guys. So be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel so you never miss any DraftKings information coming up for these UFC cards. Secondly, be sure to check out teamriseorfall.com. We have tons of experts over there, guys. If you play DFS of any kind, you gotta check it out. Use code MONK, M-O-N-K, for $10 off a subscription. And as I was saying, we have experts in the Discord, for every single sport, breaking down, lines, breaking down plays, stats, etc. Tons of conversation, tons of engagement, and tons of people posting winning tickets every single day from every single sport. So be sure to get on over there, check it out, teamriseorfall.com. Use code MONK and save $10 today. Second to lastly, be sure to also check out thrivefantasy.com. Use code MONK and you can save yourself some money over there. 100% first match deposit bonus. I will be putting out my Thrive video, I believe Thursday for this weekend, so be sure to check that out. And then the MMA Engine, it's me, Wheezy, Lou Betya, and DFS by the numbers. We are going ham over there, trying to bring you guys all kinds of content daily for every single UFC card. And we are looking to launch that website in the next few weeks for sure. So be on the lookout for that. Now, I think business is all taken care of. We have 11 fights to get through this week. So why wait any longer? Let's go ahead and get right into it. First fight of the night, as of now anyway. This probably could change because I can't imagine why they would put this fight as the first fight of the night on the card, especially as Lou Betya told me last night. Nick Maximov is coming off of a co-main event fight in his last fight, so I'm not sure why this would be the first fight of the night. Anyways, I digress. This one is taking place at the middleweight division. Bottom line is you got to play both of these guys, two wrestle heavy guys. Nick Maximov, the most expensive fighter on the card, $9,300. So he's not that hard to get to. It's not like he's 95 or 96. He does score over his two UFC fights 5.33 points per minute and 109 on average when he wins. Actually, almost pretty much 110. Let me get my cursor over here. Excuse me, make sure I'm unmuted. Yeah, so 5.33 points a minute, giving up only 1.59. He is 1,500 over his average value so far, or his average salary, but his average value is 14.1, an absolute insane number. A super high ceiling and a decent floor of 23.94, and actually that is, neither of these guys have a loss, so that is the average for the division. I personally think both guys' floors are significantly higher than 23.94. Petroski on the other side, also 2-0 in the UFC, $6,900 this week. 4.78 points per minute, allowing only 0.88 back at him, scoring 111.86 points per win. My goodness, and it's the exact opposite of Maximov. Petroski, $2,000 under his average salary. I think I just clipped right there really bad. Move this mic back a little bit. Average value of 12.57. I mean, ridiculous numbers from both of these guys. Someone has to lose this fight, unfortunately. We'll just have to see who gets their wrestling off. I mean, I could read off all these numbers, but they are just know that they're very, very good. Maximov, the less significant striker, scoring points per minute in significant strikes less than Petroski is. I don't know what I'm saying. 1.25 a minute, but his takedown points 2.5 points per minute in takedowns, you guys. Over a minute in control time points, and probably the highest reversal points per minute I've ever seen at 0.5. So Nick Maximov, no joke on the ground. I've tried to fade him stupidly twice in the past, in his past two fights in DraftKings, and he has showed me why I am an idiot. So, I mean, I cannot fade him for a third time. Andre Petroski, 2.06 points a minute in striking, 1.43 in takedowns, 1.11 in control time per minute, guys. These numbers are crazy. I know I said I wouldn't keep reading numbers, but I did want to, give those out. And the last numbers I will read. Strength of schedule. You want these to be in about 70 to 75 range. We are in the mid 50s for both of these guys. Maximov, an atrocious strength of schedule, and Petroski's is even worse than that. So, yikes. I do not like what I am seeing there. But actually, I'm not finished. I don't know why I'm scrolling up. Raw DraftKings points per minute, both guys trending up and well above their opponents. Here are my projections, almost identical, honestly. And then Petroski here with the much bigger real estate because he does have 2 finish wins in the UFC. I believe both of them are third round submissions. Tons of finishes for these guys in their professional careers. The word is that Petroski has, no cardio or whatever. I don't know why. He has 2 third-round finishes. So you can't say that he has no cardio and then he's out there getting third-round finishes twice back-to-back. I could see one being a fluke, but not twice. So I'm not going to discount his cardio as much as the next man might. Bottom line, guys, you have to have both of this fight. I will be... this might be an 80 to 90% ownership fight, honestly, for the takedown upside. And I might have to be playing a bit more Petroski just for the salary relief. I'm thinking maybe, 50 to 40% maybe Petroski to Maximov, maybe, somewhere around there. But I'm definitely going to be playing a ton of this fight. Second fight of the night. We're not going to spend a ton of time on it because I broke this down already a couple weeks ago. This seems to be a common theme. DraftKings wants me to break down fights weekly at this point, the same fights, so super cool there. Carlos Candelario going against Tatsuro Taira. As you know, if the name is in yellow, that means he does not have any UFC fights, even though it says 2 here. I'm tracking Dana White Contender Series fights, so till he has a UFC fight, his name will be in yellow, and I will be tracking the DWCS fights. But as soon as this one happens, I'll get those 2 fights out of there. Candelario, 7,200, the much cheaper option here, going against newcomer Tatsuro Taira. Taira, coming off the Japanese regional scene, has a ton of submissions, a few knockouts as well. He seems to be very quick to get to the back, some decent grappling transitions and whatnot. So I will be excited to see if he can pull that off at this level. Usually I would say no for newcomers, but Carlos Candelario also has never fought at the UFC level. 3.82 points per minute, 4.48 a minute is what he allowed. Only put up 71 in his one Dana White Contender Series win. Obviously, these are hypothetical scores. There is no DraftKings for that. But did allow 109 when he lost. So, I am it's going to be a questionable fight. Here's what's this fight, this is either going to be fireworks, and Taira's probably going to get an early finish. I mean, maybe Candelario could get an early finish as well, I guess. Or it's going to go to decision, and neither guy is going to score well at all. I assume if it goes to decision, Candelario would probably get his hand raised, but again, I have no UFC stats for Taira and very few for Candelario. So far in his DWCS fights, 2.34 points per minute in striking, almost a point per minute in takedowns, and 0.31 in control time. So those are decent numbers, but he's also getting, takedowns put up on him, allowing 2 points a minute in takedowns. So this gets to the ground. Gosh, I don't know. Both of these guys kind of submission guys. Taira seems to be a bit quicker, but like I said, it's Japanese regional tape. You don't really know what you're going to get. Let's look at the strength of schedule, which is interesting. Again, you want it to be 70-75. Candelario's in the mid-50s and even 47 strength of victory. Taira has him beat absolutely everywhere, and he still doesn't have a good strength of schedule, barely over 60. So nothing to write home about. Raw DraftKings points per minute. Candelario getting outscored, but trending up. Opponents also trending up. You don't want to see that. And here are my projections. Whatever you think is going to happen, here's how I think it will score. And then the aggregate visual statistical recap, which we can skip because only one fighter has stats. And then the finish percentages professionally. Never been finished in a loss. In fact, only one loss between them. And that was Candelario got taken to a decision. And then 72% finish rate in wins. So yeah, God, I don't even know. I feel like you can't fade Taira. You have to play him even at that high salary. Just because if he does get that early finish, he could make optimal, and you're going to be sitting there on the outskirts saying, why didn't I do that? I feel like you also have to play a bit of Candelario for the same reasons. I mean, he does score almost 4 points a minute. So if he does get a finish, he's definitely making the optimal lineup. I'm just not going crazy with either one. I'll keep it at like 20%, probably around 20% for each guy, honestly. Third fight, we'll keep it moving. Virna Jandiroba going against Angie Hill. Get a little water and cough break there. Jandiroba, $8,500 this week. 3.1 points per minute, allowing 2.71 back at her, averaging almost 95 when she wins and less than 80 when she loses. A decent value, the 5th highest on the card at 8.51. And she is coming in right around her average salary, just $167 above. I'm going to be leaning Jandiroba, at least for DraftKings. I just feel like you cannot play Angela Hill in DraftKings. I mean, maybe in cash, but this is not the week I would be playing her in cash. So I don't know how I'm going to be getting to Angela Hill, even though she has one of the best salaries in the game at $7,700, as you know, if you have been keeping up with me here. 2.96 points a minute is what Hill scores, allowing just over that, 2.97. Only 82 when she wins and allowing 88 when she loses, average value of less than 7. But she is almost $500 under her average salary. Man, I just don't like this fight for DraftKings. I'm going to be playing some Jandiroba here, but probably not Hill. I just like Jandiroba over 3 points a minute, almost 95 when she wins. Let's look at her decision points here. Where am I looking? Where's my decision? God, why can't I find it? Oh, she's never been to decision in the UFC, so that is fantastic. Is that true? What the heck? Yes, she has. What am I looking at here? My stats are off. Guys, I am losing my shit right now. I can't find anything. Oh, she's been to decision losses. She doesn't have any decision wins. I'm so stupid. So yeah, 99 when she wins by sub, 86 when she won by knockout. So not a ton of points. I mean, Angela Hill, 97 when she won by knockout, averages 78 in a decision win. If you think Angela Hill is going to win this fight, a decent amount of the time, then you can go ahead and put her in cash lineups. I would not be playing either or Angie in GPPs, maybe some Verna. But man, I'm going to be keeping exposures low here. A couple of stats you guys can look at. Here is the strength of schedule, much better for Jandiroba, but we're actually over 70 in one category for Hill. Strength of victory, not great for Angela Hill, just a 50. She is 1-4 in her last 5 in the UFC, with her only win being over Ashley Yoder. Jandiroba just lost to Amanda Ribas, who is also fighting on this card. And then Mackenzie Dern in her last 2. Here are the raw DraftKings points per minute graphs. Jandiroba trending down, still above her opponent, while her opponent trends up. Something you don't want to see. Hopefully these won't cross over. And then Angel Hill basically dead on, as we talked about earlier with her opponents, and trending just barely up, while her opponents do the same. Here are my projections. Then the DraftKings visual statistical recap, much bigger much more real estate, I should say, for Virna Jandiroba over Angela Hill. Just not a lot going on as far as DraftKings points go. For Angie Hill, not many finishes in their fights. 63% of their wins professionally have come by way of finish. But then you go into the UFC and we are at 45%. So it has come down a little bit. I think this one probably goes to decision more often than it does not. Angela Hill only been finished twice in the UFC by sub. So I guess if you're looking for a finish, Jandiroba by sub is what I would be looking at. But honestly, this probably goes to decision like 9.9 times out of 10. So don't play. I'm not going to be playing Angela Hill in GPPs. Maybe a bit in. I don't even know about cash. Virna is the one I would play in GPPs, but keep it low. Next fight. I mean, this fight is ridiculous. I don't know. Let's just try to breeze through this one and pretend like it's not happening. Michael Johnson is back in the UFC. Apparently, maybe he never left. I thought he was done. Going against Alan Patrick. Yeah, this fight shouldn't be happening. I mean, 8,400 for Johnson, 78 for Patrick. Johnson, 2.4 DraftKings points per minute, 82 per win. And this is over an 11 fight sample size, 82 points, allowing 2.57 and 87 when he loses, an average value of less than 6. And he is actually, $200 under his average salary, but I mean, come on. Patrick scoring 3 points a minute, 98 when he wins, so much better numbers than Johnson, allowing 2.5 points a minute, 97 when he loses, also under his average salary, also an average value of, an average value of 7.36, a point and a half higher than Michael Johnson's average value there. Let's try to get through this one. Patrick does have a good, scoring percentage, 80%, 4 or 5 of his UFC wins have come, or he has scored over 90 points. 3 of 5 of them over 100, and 2 of them over 110, actually. So not a bad scorer when Patrick wins. So keep that in mind this week. if Michael Johnson doesn't win, I mean, could you imagine Alan Patrick finishing Michael Johnson, making the optimal lineup? Yikes, that is a scary proposition, but I actually could imagine that. Yeah, I'm gonna keep this one light. Michael Johnson 1-4 again in his last 5 fights. This card. Oh, Patrick 3-2 with that eye poke against Mason Jones that stopped the fight. 2 losses before that, and then wins over Stevie Ray and Damir Hadzovic. Michael Johnson's only win in his last 5 is against the GOAT, Artem Lobov. Ever heard of him? So yeah, since then losses to Emmett, Ray, Moises, and Clay Guida. So yikes, not a good look there. We'll keep it scrolling. Here are my projections, pretty low for the most part. And then the DraftKings visual statistical recap. I mean, this is pretty trash for the most part, both of these guys. And then the finish aggregate professional and UFC career finish rates. Man, like my guy Wheezy said on his show last night, if you're betting this fight, I won't call you an idiot, but I might think it. And as far as DraftKings, good God, I guess you have to play some Patrick. And man, just keep exposures low is what I would say. But you don't want to be the guy that has 0% Patrick, or Michael Johnson for that matter, and one of these guys gets finished in the first freaking round. Because neither of them should be in the UFC, which means it's a high variance fight, which means anything could happen. Next fight, Viviane Araujo going against Andrea KGB Lee. 8,000 for Araujo. We'll go with Araujo. 3.31 points per minute. 2.62 is what she allows. Scoring, again, very low numbers, guys. Ever since that first fight we talked about, very low averages. 81.61 points per win. 76 is what she allows, an average value of 8.32. And she is $383 under her average salary. Now, you should look at this fight, though. Women's flyweight, the highest rate to make the optimal lineup according to Salary Voodoo. Every time a women's flyweight happens, someone from that fight makes the optimal lineup 56.6% of the time. That is the best weight class to do, the best weight class, number one weight class as far as Salary Voodoo goes. So, surprisingly, women's flyweight, keep that in mind. Andrea Lee, 3.61 points per minute, allowing only 3.06 back at her. Actually, not only, that is a ton allowed. 91 is what she scores per win, giving up 93 when she loses. An average value, surprisingly high, 9.12, and this per fight. And she is almost $400 under her average salary. So both of these women very easy to get to this week. Andrea Lee, the much better numbers when she wins, 103 TKO or knockout win, 115 when she subs, and almost 80 in a decision. All much better numbers than the Araujo side. 40% of Lee's 5 wins have come, or she has scored over 100 points, I should say, over 110 in 1, and Araujo only going over 90 in 2 of her 4 UFC wins. Both of these women putting up, pretty much a point per minute in grappling and allowing, Araujo allows 0.17 points a minute in grappling, but Andrea Lee allowing over 1 point per minute. So if Araujo can get this to the ground, she has a possibility there, at least historically, to score a lot of points, or a decent amount of points anyways, get, bank that control time, etc. Few relevant fight stats to take a look at. It looks like Andrea Lee has the striking and Araujo has the grappling, just like I was talking about. Last 5 strength of schedule, pretty even for the most part. In fact, I'm going to just split it right down the middle. A few of the numbers are better for Lee, but they are all right in the same neighborhood, right around the lower to mid 60s. And then the last 5, Araujo going 3-2, Lee going 2-3, coming off 3 straight losses, and then turning it around against Shevchenko and Calvillo, in which she scored 103 points against Calvillo and 115 against Antonina Shevchenko. This is definitely a step up in competition compared to those two. So we will have to see how it goes. I think I'm leaning Araujo, but honestly, I don't really know. I'm probably going to be playing both, honestly. You have to play both sides of this one because it is the women's flyweight, with the great optimal percentage. And then, maybe not. At least in cash, maybe you have to play both. I don't know about GPPs. GPPs, I'll probably be higher on Andrea Lee for the scoring upside. Araujo, like I said, not averaging a ton of points per win. Lee with the better real estate almost everywhere except for win percentage and distance striking points But everywhere else, it is Andrea Lee. She's got a nice little, wall built around Araujo's graph there. And then the aggregate pro and UFC career finishing percentages, relatively low. The biggest number is their pro win finish percentage, 65. Other than that, the losses very, very low. Just not out here getting finished. This one probably goes to decision. I guess if I'm picking one for cash, I guess I'm picking Araujo because I probably think she wins this fight. But GPPs, give me Andrea Lee, 82 to 8,000, very comparable. You're not missing out on much there, but the higher scoring upside is what I would be looking at here as far as GPP plays. Next fight of the night, Jake Hadley going against Nascimento, and he is in yellow, so you know what that means. Dana White Contender Series fight, $8,800 for Jake Hadley. 2.25 points per minute is what he scored in that fight. 2.96 is what he gave up, only scoring 88 in that Dana White Contender Series win, hypothetically, of course. Nascimento, only one UFC fight. He is 0-1. $7,400. He scored only 1.35 points over 15 minutes. 1.35 points per minute, I should say. Over 15 minutes. That is obviously a terrible number. Also, he gave up over 4 points a minute. Not something you want to do against a guy that has a decent takedown game. Let's see, average value. He had a value of under 3, and he is $600 over his previous salary. So interesting salaries here from both of these guys. Here's what you should look at. Nascimento allowing 2.78 points per minute in grappling and in takedowns and control time in his first fight. 2.87. Meanwhile, Jake Hadley scored almost 1 point a minute in his fight on the ground. So just that's what I would be focusing on in this matchup. I don't know a ton about these guys. I don't have a ton of stats for these guys. In fact, the stats are very ugly for these guys for the most part. I'm going to be thinking leaning Jake Hadley, I should say, just for that huge takedown upside. But if Nascimento has any takedown game of his own, which we haven't seen at all, Hadley allowed over 1.5 points in takedowns and control time in his fight too. So this could be an absolute shit show. Honestly, they should switch this fight with the first fight of the night to be frank. Hadley, however, undefeated in his pro career, 8-0. Nascimento, on the other hand, 18-6. So a much more extensive professional career, but 6 losses there. And he's coming off 1-2 Tagir Ulanbekov, who I believe got beat by Tim Elliott. I do believe in his last fight. So here is the raw DraftKings points per minute graph, which we can skip because we only have one fight. And very, very low projections for both of these guys, as you would imagine. Tons of finishes as far as wins go. No finishes. Nascimento never been finished in his pro career, so that is an interesting little stat. I'm leaning Hadley. Nascimento's going to have to show me something, even at that very low salary of $7,400. I cannot roster a guy that scored 1.35 points per minute over 15 minutes. So give me the upside, the possible upside of Jake Hadley, the big fade to Nascimento, and his terrible takedown and control time scoring that he put up in his defensive, I should say, that he put up in his first fight. So give me the takedown and control time possibilities from Jake Hadley here. Man, these guys have 17 sub wins between them. Oh, God. I'll probably be less than 10% Nascimento in GPPs, 0 in cash. So I'll be leaning Hadley in this one for sure. Next fight. I can't believe I'm saying this guy's name. Frank the Crank Camacho going against Manuel Torres. El Loco. Love it. Love it. Lightweight fight here. Camacho, been almost 2 years since he's set foot in a UFC octagon. He is $7,900 this week. Guys, let's take a water break, huh? There we go. Do you feel better? Because I do. 7,900 for Camacho, 3.81 points per minute is what he scores. So a pretty decent score, averaging 114.17 points per win. That is a great number. But then you look at his UFC record. Guys, Frank Camacho is 2-5 in the UFC. 2-5. Yeesh. Allowing 4.21 points per minute and 104 when he loses. So if he, there's a ton of points flying around Frank Camacho fights. He's also 2.14 or 2.14, $214 over his average salary. So very interesting to note there. Manuel Torres coming off that Dana White Contender Series fight, 2-minute fight. I believe he scored a knockout. Yes, over Bolton, England. And that fight, if you would put scoring on it, 9.57 points a minute, allowing 1.14. So a ton to nothing, basically. You're not going to get much from the stats over here from Torres. I am picking Torres. There's no way I'm picking Frank freaking Camacho to win this fight. He's 2-5 record, hasn't fought in 2 years. There is, in no world would I pick Frank Camacho to win this fight. None. Does that mean he's not going to win? No. As you can tell, or as you can see, if you watch any of my previous videos, I have been wrong once or twice before, as everyone has been. But I don't know. I just can't. There's no way I can back Frank Camacho in this one. I'm going to kind of scroll past a bunch of these stats. I mean, strength of schedule, he has that over Torres here. But, you know, Torres has been fighting on the regional scene, and this is his first time up in the cage. So I would expect that. Frank Camacho lost to Justin James, guys. He got knocked out in less than a minute by Justin James. I don't have to say anything else. And I'm not going to. Projections much, much higher, obviously, for Torres. Finishing percentages through the roof. 80% or almost 90% in wins professionally. 80% in losses. And then we're in the 60s in both those categories in the UFC. I'm sure Computer Monk is going to pick this one to finish inside the distance, and I am leaning Manuel Torres. I love Manuel Torres for GPPs this week, as I'm sure a lot of people do, maybe. Maybe they're, you know, just not on him because they've never heard his name before. I don't know. Maybe they see Frank Camacho, and they're like, hey, I remember that guy. Let's put him in my lineups for some reason. But I'm going to be on the Manuel Torres side. I like the upside of this kid. If he gets an early knockout of Frank Camacho, he's going to make the optimal lineup at 8,300, or at least could be close. Yeah, I'm going to have a hard time getting to Frank Camacho. Definitely not in cash. Ooh, no cash. GPPs, I guess you have to, because he does have 17 wins by KO TKO. But I would keep it very low. It would be like 10-15%. If I come in on Friday and I see that he's at like, you know, less than 10% ownership, I might play more than that just to get some possible leverage there. But that's kind of how I would look to play it. Wait till Friday, see what his exposure is, or his ownership is, and then go from there. If it's 15 or 20, be under. If it's 10 or less, be over. That's kind of how I would play it. Next fight of the night. What do we got here? Fourth to last fight already, guys. My goodness, we're at half an hour, even less. We are flying this week, boys and girls. Please, thank you, rather, for being here. Please hit that like and subscribe to the Monk Maddox channel as well. Ring that bell if you feel like it, and never miss any content related to DraftKings coming up for UFC events. So, Katlyn Chookagian going against Amanda Ribas. I wish I could pick Amanda Ribas here. I wish I could. I just don't see how I'm going to be able to. This has Katlyn Chookagian decision written all over it. We'll kind of breeze through the stats. I think, if I remember right, she's the only fighter in UFC history to record 10 wins with no finishes. So yeah, her first 10 wins in the UFC. Actually, yeah, 10 wins, as she is 10-4 in the UFC, no finishes. So kudos to Katlyn Chookagian for that. 8,600, 2.44 points per minute, 70 is her average when she wins. 70 points. 2.74 is what she's giving up. 90 points per loss is what she has been allowing. So very, very subpar numbers for Katlyn Chookagian, especially at this fantastic salary of 8,600. Such a shame. Average value of 6.73, and she's 10-4, guys. This is a tremendously low value for the amount of wins that she has in the UFC. On top of all that, she is $338 over her average salary. Are you going to pay up for Katlyn Chookagian, especially in GPPs? No, you're not. I wouldn't. Amanda Ribas, 7,600, 3.89 points per minute. Here's the GPP fighter to target in this one. This is very clearly cash over here, GPP over here. So 93 points per win for Ribas. That's over 5 wins. She is 5-1 in the UFC, allowing only 2.11 points per minute. A fantastic defensive pace, second best on the card. 88 points per loss, 9.36 value. See, this is the value you want, not this value. And she's also over $1,000 less than her average salary. Again, GPP play, cash play. We won't really focus on I mean, look, Caitlin Chookagian has put up 90 points one time out of 10 wins. The only other stat that I'll show you here, Amanda Ribas, 6.66 points in takedowns just per minute. I said that backwards, but I think you got what I meant. 0.57 control time points per minute. And then Chookagian on the other side allowing 0.46 points in takedowns per minute and 0.27 points in control time. So a big discrepancy there. Huge numbers on the offensive side for Ribas as far as grappling, and kind of big numbers as far as takedown and control time defense from Chookagian. So you definitely don't want to see that there. Let's see. I mean, look at these stats. I mean, she has no stats that are better than Ribas except for the amount of time fought at distance. I mean, Ribas landing 4.65 strikes a minute, which is just over what Chookagian lands. But Chookagian's defense far below Ribas. In fact, Ribas only getting hit with 2.17 strikes per minute, controlling 75% of the grappling time. So, man, I guess when the DraftKings stats are this bad, you got to get into the real stats. The strength of schedule for Ribas much better. Her only loss in the last 5 coming up against Marina Rodriguez. And then Chookagian's only loss in her last 5 going against Jessica Andrade. So neither one losing to any scrub. Here are my projections, very low, as you can imagine. Ribas with the much bigger real estate as far as the DraftKings visual recap goes. And then the finish rate's pretty much non-existent, except in their losses. 2/3 of their losses professionally have been by way of finish. Guys, I like these fighters, I guess. I mean, I'm going to be pulling for Amanda Ribas. Nothing against Caitlin Chookagian. She doesn't give me anything to root for, you know what I mean? That's just a personal thing. Plus, I'm not a fan of her, Bruce Lee noises that she insists on making. But that doesn't matter. Ribas, I would like to see win this fight. I think she's the more exciting fighter. And last time, GPP play, and then Chookagian is the cash play. But you don't need some DFS idiot like me to tell you that. It was pretty obvious from the get-go. And guys, if you don't know, I have been getting this question a bit, so we'll take 30 seconds and break this down. The difference between, and if you do know this, just bear with me. I promise I'll keep it quick. GPPs and cash. I should say I just talk about that constantly, and I've never said what the difference is if you don't know. GPP are bigger tournaments. You'll also hear them referred to as MMEs, I believe, sometimes. It's just different acronyms. They mean basically the same thing. Big field tournaments where you can also, put in multiple entries, like the 150 max, stuff like that. So in those tournaments, you're looking to be different than the field. You want a unique lineup, meaning a lineup that not many other people have also constructed. And you want to play the people that have the highest, not, a good chance to win. You want good chances at finishes, et cetera, et cetera. So those lineups, GPP lineups, can be much more variance, much more fluctuating between high and low salaries. And if that doesn't make any sense, just hold on. The cash game side are like double ups, triple ups, smaller field usually, where you don't have to have the best possible lineup or the optimal lineup to win money. You just want to beat 40 or 60% of the field for the most part, and you get, your money back basically, plus, double your money, I guess I should say, with a little bit of a rake taken out. So cash games, you want to choose the fighters that are more likely to win for sure. Even if they don't score you the most points. So GPPs, you want tons of points, as many as you can find from whoever you want. Cash games, you want to be a little bit more selective as far as who your fighters are going to be. You want to choose somebody that's going to win. You'd like to have 6 winning fighters if that is the scenario there. So next fight. I thought I just heard something crazy. Next fight, Luis Smolka going against dangerous Davy Grant. Oof. This is a decent one for GPPs for DraftKings here. Luis Smolka, $7,100. Very cheap salary. 3rd cheapest this week. 3.67 points a minute. So for the 3rd cheapest salary, you get the 5th highest offensive pace. He also scores 109 points when he wins. This is over 8 wins. He is 8-8, so not the best UFC record. But 109 points over 8 UFC wins is pretty impressive, to be frank. It's the 2nd time I've said that today. I need a new saying. He allows 3.99 points per minute. So the opposite of impressive. 100 points per loss is what his opponents are scoring. Average value of 7.75. That's not bad. Top 10 number for the card. And the icing on the Smolka cake, he is $1,140 less than his average salary. He has the third highest ceiling, though, on the card. The third lowest floor on the card as well. Actually, second lowest floor on the card. Dangerous Davy Grant. $9,100, 3.23 points per minute, 95 when he wins. 4-5 in the UFC. I hate playing these guys with losing records, man. I hate it. 2.90 points per minute is his defensive pace, allowing 94 when he loses. And this is going to make Davy Grant near impossible to play this week. He is $1,600 over his average salary, you guys. That is an insane number for Davy Grant. 7.5 average value, so nothing crazy, average for the card, I guess. The scoring upside for Smolka is much superior to the scoring upside for Davy Grant. So GPPs, I will have much more Luis Smolka. Davy Grant, probably the cash play if you're looking for that, although personally I wouldn't be. That just seems a bit too risky for me, honestly, as far as cash goes. So I will be playing both guys in GPPs, but it's going to be so much easier to get to Smolka than it is to get to $9,100 Davy Grant. My goodness. Smolka, 7 of 8 of his UFC wins, he's scored over 90. Let's see, 5 of 8 of them over 100, and in 4 of them over 110. So like I said, the scoring upside for Smolka is fantastic. Davy Grant on the other side, 3 wins over 90, only 1 over 100, and he's never touched 110. There we go. The problem here, Smolka gets taken down at will, and Davy Grant does have almost a point per minute in takedown and control time. So that is what I would be worried about here. Smolka also scoring a decent amount of points as far as grappling himself. I mean, these guys' defense are these two boys' defenses are just terrible, it seems like. Just terrible. Strength of schedule, 2 and 3 for Luis Smolka with losses against Morales, Kenny, and Matt Schnell. And then Davy Grant coming off 2 straight. No slouches, though. Chito Vera and then Adrian Yanez. So, man, oh, man. I'm going to be leaning Luis Smolka for GPP exposures as far as who I'm going to have more of. But I think Davy Grant wins this fight more times than he doesn't. But I'm not counting Luis Smolka out whatsoever. Here are my projections. Aggregate or visual statistical recap. Smolka with the much better real estate, higher finish win percentage, DraftKings points per win, bonus points per win. Davy Grant sticking out in distance strikes, but that is literally it. Distance striking points per win, I should say. And then look at this. Percent finishes in wins professionally. 92.86% of these two guys' wins have been finish wins. And in the UFC, it is 2/3. So Computer Monk definitely picking this to finish inside the distance. Smolka been finished, Vince Morales in the first round, Casey Kenny first round, Matt Schnell first round. Davy Grant's last 2 losses have been decision losses. Vera, not known as a not really a finisher lately, which is no knock on him. I'm just saying Yanez is more of a finisher, and he went to a split decision. Man. Probably Grant and cash, probably Smolka and GPPs for sure. Plus Smolka at 7,100, going to be so easy to get to this week. There are some dogs that could be barking, a couple of them. I'm not expecting it this week, but if Smolka wins, he's making the optimal lineup. If whoever's at 6,900, did we already talk about that? I believe we did. Who was it? Guys, I'm sorry, I can't remember. Oh yeah, whoever's fighting Nick Maximov at 69. Petroski. I mean, there are some dogs that could be barking. If either of these guys wins, they're going to be making the optimal lineup. So don't just count out Luis Smolka, even though it's tough to play Luis Smolka, I understand. But he has a chance here against Davy Grant, I believe. And I think he's also, let me go back. Is he younger than Davy Grant? Oh, yeah, by 5.5 years younger than Davy Grant. So something to keep in mind. Ryan Spann, co-main event going against Jan Cutelaba. Oof. I don't know how I'm going to be able to get to Ryan Spann too much this week. I just don't. I mean, he scores well. 3.36 points per minute, only 85 when he wins, though. That is the kicker. 85 in a win is not what you want from a light heavyweight fighter. His defensive pace, not good either. 3.17 points per minute, allowing 113.67 per loss. Yikes. So he's given up points when he loses. Average value of just under 8, respectable. And he is over $1,000 under his average salary here. So if you're on the Ryan Spann side, who has made the optimal lineup in 1 out of his last 2 fights, then $7,300 might be a little bit easy to get to. But for me, Ion Cutelaba is going to be my GPP side here, guys. I mean, $8,900. It's pretty expensive, but it's not as expensive as it could be. The best pace on the card, 4.22 points per minute. 110 points per win, and this is over 5 wins. His defensive pace is great, allowing only 2.43 points a minute, and 91 when he loses. Average value of 8.26, so, you know, a little bit over Ryan Spann. The issue, he is $710 over his average salary. That's not a terrible number, but it is a bit much. But that offensive pace is fantastic. 110 per win, and then you see Spann with his 113 per loss. If Cutelaba comes out here and finishes Spann, who tends to, you know, if he gets hit, he kind of backs up, puts his hands up, and Cutelaba is the guy that will rain punches on you until the ref stops him. Even if you're standing, he will just never stop throwing and hope that the ref steps in to finish that fight, which causes issues in the past with him going forward and just gassing himself out because he does unload in that first round. But if he connects with Spann, this fight is going to be over. And at 8,900, he, you know, 100 points could make him the optimal lineup. You know, 95 points, he could land on the optimal lineup. He has made it 1 out of his last 2 fights, just the same as his competitor this week. But look at these scoring numbers. The scoring upside for Cutelaba is all you need to know. 80%. So 4 of his 5 UFC fights over 90 points, 4 of his 5 UFC fights over 100 points, and 3 of those fights over 60. Whereas Spann is at 40, 40, and 20. So both guys can score, but Cutelaba's scoring upside is just that much higher than Ryan Spann's. And that pace he puts on, 4-point-something points a minute, my goodness. I mean, look at this. When Spann loses, both first round. I mean, on average, he gives up 90 bonus points per loss. So that is a first round knockout. Give me Cutelaba, who's averaging 71 bonus points per win. Few stats here. Let's look at their chin deck. Here it is, right here. Power index for Ryan Spann, very good. 2.53, the highest power index on the card. Cutelaba, only 0.44. So while powerful, a much lower power index than Spann. Now, here is the issue. Cutelaba, Chindex, this number should be 0. That means you would have never been knocked down in the UFC. 0.63, not a great number, is the 10th best, though, this week. So, hey, we'll take it. Ryan Spann, I say all this to show you this. Ryan Spann's Chindex is double what Cutelaba's is. That is not good. Like I said, you want this to be 0. 1.27 is completely unacceptable for a Chindex. That means you can get touched and go down. It means you've been touched and gone down. I guess in his last 5, it's only been Anthony Smith that's knocked him down twice. So if Anthony Smith is knocking you down, I guarantee you Cutelaba can knock you down. I have all the Anthony Smith is one of my favorite fighters. Omaha boy, love Anthony Smith. I'm not saying he's weak at all. I'm just saying Cutelaba is I mean, his nickname is the Hulk for a reason. And in fact, this is interesting. We have DC versus DC here. Superman going against the Hulk. Actually, that's not DC. See, I don't know shit about comics and stuff. I know it's DC versus Marvel, though. So that's what I meant to say. Superman versus the Hulk. So I'm leaning the Hulk for this one, guys. 100%. Raw DraftKings points per minute graph trending up for Ryan Spann. Well, a little bit above his opponent. So you do like to see that. Meanwhile, Cutelaba trending down, but well above his opponent, almost by 2 points a minute. I mean, how can you keep going up at 4.2 points a minute, you know? Here are my projections. Obviously, much higher for Cutelaba, as I've said ad nauseum at this point, the much better scoring upside. And then the real estate here for Cutelaba, with the exception of the win percentage in the UFC going to Spann, as Cutelaba only a 45% win percentage there. So not a great look. And then the finish percentages in professional fights and in the UFC, wins and losses extremely high. I would be shocked, if this made it out of the first round. Okay, out of the first half, 1.5. If it makes it past 1.5, I'll be surprised. But if this goes to finish, I'll be freaking shocked. But give me the Hulk over Superman in this one. 8,900. I like the DraftKings upside. Like I said, GPP plays here. I'm not playing either side in cash. None. This is... If I am going to play a side in cash, I'll play Cutelaba. But even saying that sentence out loud is extremely frightening. But a big GPP fight here. So give me Cutelaba. More shares of Cutelaba than Spann. But that said, Give me a little bit of Spann too, and you should have some in there. Cutelaba has been finished 4 times in the UFC. 4 of his 5 UFC losses, he has been finished. So Spann, not known as a huge finisher by any means, I guess outside of the UFC, but you got to have a little bit of exposure, I think, on Spann as well. Even though I don't think he's going to win. Main event, guys. We did it just under 45 minutes so far. Last time, be sure to hit the like. I appreciate you being here. Hit that sub button as well, as we are on the road to 300 subs. So let's get it. Jan Blachowicz going against Aleksandar Rakic. Light heavyweight fight. We'll start with the Rakic side. $8,700 in this one. Offensive pace, 3.93 points per minute. 99.43 when he wins. Giving up only 1.55 points a minute. That is the best defensive pace on the card, and it's not even close, by at least half a point. And only 67 when he loses. I mean, my goodness. He is only $29 over his average salary, an average value of 10.5. I mean, what else do you want from me? 135 ceiling, the highest ceiling on the card, and a 42 floor. My goodness. Aleksandar Rakic may be one of the safest fighters on the card this week. Interesting. And at $8,700, it is a bit much, but not for what you could get from him, not for the possible value that's on the table here. And at $8,700, it's going to be easier to get to him. He's not 95, 93 as he, could be. Jan Blachowicz, $7,500, has made the optimal in one of his last 2 fights, if I could talk correctly. 2.69 points a minute, not a great pace. 96 when he wins, 6th best on the card. Okay. 2.43 points per minute allowed, and 95 when he loses. So not, the defensive numbers very different here for both guys. Average value of just under 9. And Blachowicz is $223 under his average salary. So both guys very easy to get to here. Much lower ceiling, much lower floor as well. He did not look good against Glover Teixeira, guys. Did not look good. And I know that's going to be a lot of the recency bias. That's probably why he's such a low, such a low salary this week, because the odds are all jacked up. But man, I'm going to be hard pressed to see how Rakic loses this fight. I think this goes to decision. I think Rakic can score decently well in a 5-round decision. Get that 30 points bonus and score, possibly over 100 points this week. So I like the Rakic side. The much better scoring upside as well. I mean, Blachowicz has put up over 90 in 81% of his 11 UFC wins, but over 100 in only 27%. So that is a huge drop-off right there. Meanwhile, Rakic, 4 of his 6 UFC wins over 90, 3 over 100, and 3 over 110. So you see how the drop-off much less on this side compared to this side. This is going to be, pretty much a striking affair. I mean, Blachowicz does average, I guess, over half a point per minute in takedown and control time. Oh, I didn't see this, though. Rakic averaging almost 1 point a minute in takedown and control time. The second best control time points per minute rate on the card at 0.7. So that is a huge number, actually. And the best offense or defensive striking pace per minute at allowing only 1.22 points per minute via striking. So like I said, I'm going to be hard pressed to pick against Rakic this week. Both guys 4-1 in their last 5. Raw DraftKings points per minute graph. I mean, pretty even keel as far as Jan Blachowicz goes. Still above his opponent. Opponent's trending up, however. And then Rakic trending down. Opponent's also trending down, but he is so far above his opponents, over 2 points above his opponents, I believe, if I could read that number. But yeah, 4 something a minute, 4 point something a minute or something like that to 1.55. So yeah, basically 2.5 points over per minute. And then here are the aggregate career in UFC finish percentages. Pretty decent. Actually, here are my projections. This is what I was trying to say. I was trying to read something while saying something, and I think my words got jumbled. But Aleksandar Rakic much higher as far as projections go, as you would imagine. And then the finish rate, not very high. In wins professionally, 64.29%. But in the UFC, less than 50 for wins and losses. So very low. I think this one goes to decision. I think Rakic takes it, and I think he scores right around his average, 99, 100 points. And at 8,700, that could make the optimal pretty easily. So guys, that is gonna do it. Before we get out of here, let's go over and see what Computer Monk has to say. Where were we as far as last week? We dipped down. We had not a great week last week. 7 of 7. I went 500 for the week as far, not me, but Computer Monk went 500 as far as picks, but we dipped below that 60% mark. 59.78%. I want it to be over 60, obviously. So hopefully we will remedy that today. We've only dipped below 60 one other time, and we fixed it immediately the week after. So let's fix it, Computer Monk. What have you got for us today? Some interesting picks. Andre Petroski, Carlos Candelario, Berna Jandiroba, Michael Johnson, Vivian Araujo, Jake Hadley, Manuel Torres, Amanda Ribas, Davy Grant, Jan Cutelaba, and Aleksandar Rakic. Last week, Computer Monk picked 12 of 15 fights to finish inside the distance, and we had 5 split decisions, if that tells you anything. I think we had 3, or actually I could just check. 1, 2, 3, 4 finishes total. So the complete opposite of what he predicted. But this week is also the complete opposite of what he predicted last week, with only 1, 2, 3, 4 fights finishing inside the distance. That would be Cutelaba, Davy Grant, Manuel Torres, and Andre Petroski. I agree wholeheartedly with all 3 of those. I mean, I'd be shocked, like I said, if Cutelaba Spann went, or if Smolka Grant went, honestly. Camacho Torres, that's no way that's going to see the cards, right? And then Maximov Petroski, that could see the cards, but man, that one's going to be interesting. So those are Computer Monk's picks for this week, guys. We did it. All 11 fights covered from a DraftKings perspective. I want to thank you so much for joining me. Last time, be sure to hit that like on the video, hit the subscribe on the channel, as I am trying to make that push for the next milestone at 300. What else? TeamRiseOrFall.com. Once again, be sure to check them out. If you play DFS of any kind, use code MONK, M-O-N-K, today, and save yourself $10. They also have a $20 credit to Fantasy Cruncher if that's something that you're interested in, so check that out. And the MMA Engine, guys, last thing I'll say before we get out of here, subscribe to that channel and get over on Twitter, follow us as well. It's me, Lou, Brady, and Uncle Wheezy, and we are bringing you guys content every single day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, before every single UFC card. So be sure to check us out over there. We're on the road to 800 subs. We're almost there, so help us out. And again, thank you guys for joining me. I want all of you to enjoy the fights, so enjoy, and we will see you next time. Have a good one.